Number 1. To set the scene, where I live, it is normal that lots of people commute to the big city from the outskirts for work. What I mean, most of them agree to pay and rent a bus that will drive them to and from work on a daily basis. It is especially popular among nurses, basic office workers, young people who cannot yet afford their own cars, and so on. The bus will usually take off from a regular bus stop. One day, my aunt is travelling to work by car. It is quite early, probably somewhere around 7, since she starts at 8. She approaches the bus stop and sees a man waving at cars. He is nicely dressed, a jacket, polished shoes, that kind of stuff, holding a briefcase. Usually, she would not take a stranger, but come on, he must have been an office worker, judging by his looks, and he's probably missed his bus, so she decides to stop and invite him in. The guy is more than happy, very talkative, so off they go. As the journey proceeds, she's getting more and more comfortable. The guy is young, 25 maybe, funny and easy to talk to. They're getting closer and closer to the city, and the hitchhiker says that since they will most definitely be stuck in the traffic on the main road, they better take a less attended one. No red flags going off. I mean, he is right, and doesn't send bad vibes at all. Now what you need to know, I talk about Pacific City. It is quite wild. I mean, foreigners will visit and say, "Whoa, it sure is green in here." I will not reveal an exact location, but it is all surrounded by forests. There are actually forests in the city as well. You will see nice and flashy office buildings on one side of the river and a forest on the other. It is crucial for the story. It does not really matter if you take the main or less attended road, you will still get to the city. They drive, forest all around, which the guy comments on, saying how nice it all looks now, and blah blah. My aunt is smiling and nodding, and that's when the creepy part kicks in. He turns his head to her and says, in a completely normal, even soft voice, "You would look good in a coffin." The guy goes completely quiet after that utterly horrific statement, gripping his hands on the briefcase. She is beyond creeped, but tries not to show and plays it cool. That's when an idea pops in her head. She slows down and says that something must be wrong with the engine, because it's getting hard for her to navigate. Then she drives to the side of the road and asks if he would be so nice to get out and check, since she's just a woman. She wouldn't know, etc. He instantly agrees and gets out of the car. That's when she withdraws and drives the fuck away, leaving the creepy hitchhiker behind. She didn't really care then that she left him there all alone. What he said was creepy as hell. After a few kilometers, she calms down, congratulating herself on getting rid of him, when she notices that his briefcase is still lying on the passenger seat. What would a normal person do in this case? Probably throw it away or something. But she decides to look inside, and believe me, inside made her nauseous. Instead of papers, pens, or whatever else office boys carry around, she finds a neatly folded thin rope. I don't know how these things are called, to be honest. The really, really thin rope, kind of metallic one. And a set of knives, not one knife. A set of sharp, nice knives. You would think the guy was a hunter or something, except he probably wasn't. She is freaked out and decides to go to the nearest police station to report what just happened and to give them the briefcase. As usual here though, the police didn't do much. No one fits the description of the guy. The original hitchhiker could not be located, and so on. After that, she never ever took a hitchhiker, and I don't think that I would. Number 2. This happened in the late 1980s when I was a college student. I'm a female. I went to Georgia Tech, which is located in the middle of Atlanta. Do keep in mind that this was before cell phones. One weekend, I went to a bar not too far from campus with a few girls I knew, but not particularly good friends. A fun time was had by all, and I eventually drifted away from the girls I'd come with after seeing some other people I knew. After a bit, I was good and drunk. I ended up talking to some guy I knew, a little, who kept trying to get me to go with him. I brushed him off, saying I wasn't feeling too great, and he offered to drive me back to my dorm. I declined, saying I had a ride. I then decided that maybe I actually wasn't feeling too great, and also it was really late. So I went in search of the girls I'd arrived with. They were nowhere to be found, and I didn't really blame them for ditching me, since I'd left them earlier. I thought about going back and asking the guy I knew for a ride, but I didn't like him too well, and didn't want him to get the wrong idea. At this point, there wasn't anyone else I knew at the bar, so I reluctantly decided to walk back. It was about a 30-minute walk to my dorm, and the bar wasn't in the best place of Atlanta. There were some bad areas right near campus, but it wasn't a terrible part of the city either. Plus I was drunk, and definitely not using my best judgment. I headed out and was pretty nervous. I finally got to the edge of campus and felt very relieved. My dorm was still on the other side of campus, but I was out of the big, bad city part of my trek home. Then I saw a big, dark SUV cruise up slowly towards me. It stopped right next to me and a guy jumped out. I was terrified and looked around to see if there was any way to get help if he tried to abduct me or something. He held his hands up towards me and said, "Don't worry, I'm a cop. I was just concerned when I saw you walking alone, because it could be dangerous." "Oh, thanks," I replied. "I'm fine, just walking back to my dorm." It was pretty dark, but from what I could see, he was a tall, fit man of about 30. He didn't look to me like the sort of creep who would kidnap college girls. Yes, I was stupid. Of course, he offered me a ride once more, and honestly, I thought about accepting, because it was late and I was tired and drunk and just wanted to be back in my room. But apparently, common sense won out, and I declined once again. At this point, he got more insistent and talked about how he understood why it's generally a bad idea to accept a ride from strangers. But he was a cop and was genuinely worried about my safety. Well, he got more insistent, and I got more firm in saying no, and he began to sound more and more angry, which was quite distressing. By the end of this, he was pretty angry and jumped back into his car saying, "Fine, but you're going to regret it if anything happens to you." And he drove off. Needless to say, my heart was pounding in my chest the rest of the walk, and I've never been so happy to get back to my dorm room. I doubt you really were a cop, or had entirely good intentions. But whoever you were, let's not meet. Number 3. Alright, stumbling over this subreddit made me remember this one encounter some 12 years ago. I was working my first job, driving a wheel loader at a recycling company. Picture a quite big area with gigantic piles of scrap metal, and in the middle was an enormous building for processing paper. So it's 4 a.m, early November, and I'm blasting the heater, hoping the warm air will start flowing before I turn into a popsicle. November mornings in Sweden are cold and dark, and I'm working overtime, so I have this place to myself. Well, dark if you don't count the 10 or so extra lights fitted to the machine. But they are all aimed at the ground around you, so you don't run over people, with the disadvantage of making everything more than 10 yards away into solid darkness. So I'm sitting there, in the middle of the yard, shivering, sipping coffee, smoking and hating life in general, when I see someone materializing from the dark. My first instinct is that someone else figured they could use the overtime, but this person is coming from in between two piles of scrap metal, and well, beyond that is fences, barbed wire and thick forest. He's walking in my general direction, but not exactly towards me, and everything is just wrong about this guy. He's not mean looking or anything. Normal height, normal build, maybe in his 40s. Normal clothes, but no jacket, which made me wonder how he could stand the cold. So I study him as he approaches. He's constantly looking around him, and when he gets closer, I can see that his face and clothes are dirty, as if he has walked through the forest from the city, which is probably a good 3-hour walk, in daylight. He stops in front of the wheel loader, a bit to the left, but he never acknowledged the fact that I'm there. Here's this 20-ton machine, idling, with mentioned lights, but he just looks right through it, constantly searching for something. I'm not scared. Well, okay, I'm a little scared, but you gotta be polite, so I open the door with some measure of hesitance. Are you... I lean back and kill the machine so he can actually hear me. Are you okay? Nothing. I'm not there. This is restricted area. You can't, really be here. He starts tapping his foot and biting his thumbnail, as if he's nervous. And I just remember that everything from his appearance to his body language is just out of sync with the whole situation. I try again. Do you live around here? Nada. It's really cold. Can I get you some coffee? Not even a glance at me. I really begin to freak out. Should I call the security company? Maybe the police or ambulance? Drive back home and call in sick? I try a few more questions, but I get nowhere, and I'm not willing to climb down either, so I just sit there and look at him. It feels like forever, but it was probably just a few minutes. Then he looks straight at me, right in the eyes. He doesn't say anything, just holds the stare for a few moments and then walks away. Once again, absolutely non-threatening. He just looked tired and kind of haunted or something, and I'm no longer shivering from the cold. I shiver because it's 1 hour since I woke, and I'm already having enough of this day. Eventually, I call the guard company when I'm fairly sure I won't have a panic attack, and they come and I talk to them into calling the police. Because once I had calmed down, I realised that this guy could very well be in a crappy mental state and maybe hurt himself. But I never heard anything about it again. Writing this down, I feel like an overreacting drama queen. But back then, I felt like I was in an episode of X-Files or something. Though, whoever you are, I hope you're doing okay now. But please, let's not meet in the dark again. Number 4. This happened just a few hours ago, so it's still very fresh in my mind. I work in the electronics area in my very interesting store. But this makes the cut. I'm talking with my co-workers, more like goofing off, talking about what we're doing after work, because it's Halloween. And I notice a guy that's been walking around, talking on a phone, somewhat loudly, but not too so, you could understand. He walked past down to the pets aisle, and I did not see where he went after that. Then some of my co-workers get back to work, and I help the guest locate something on the other side of the electronics. And I notice the guy's still talking and walking, so I just ignore it and move on. Then when I get back to my area, I stand a few minutes. Then the guy that was on the cell phone walks behind me and my co-workers. Then he comes back and we have a few chairs so people can sit when they get their phones upgraded. So the guy sits down and he's looking at his phone. I turn away from my co-workers and ask, "Hi, is there anything I could help you find?" "No, I'm fine. I just need to sit down. I only gotten a few hours of sleep last night." "Okay, just let us know if there's anything we could help you with." Then I turn to get back to the conversation that me and my co-workers were having. And then the guy asked, "So, how do you like the job?" "It's pretty good. I don't mind the work." "That's cool. I need a new job. I'm only working 20 hours. "You should apply here. You get more hours than that." "Okay, so what time did you start?" "I got here around 1. "What time do you get off?" 9. "What time do you work tomorrow?" 12 to 10. Then he gets a call in and walked off. Honestly, he was a pretty sketchy dude. I wasn't sure if he was drunk or on something. Wearing a wife beater and a pair of dress pants in 35-degree weather. That is strange, considering that about every guest in the store is in a warm jacket. But at the end of the night, my manager told my associate to walk me out to my car when I get off, just in case if that sketchy dude came around. But he never did. Number 5. This happened to my godmother, who I'm very close with. She and my mother have been friends since 4th grade. This took place during the 70s, and my godmother was about 16 or 17 at the time. So one day, she was doing some homework in the living room when the phone rang. Her mum picked it up, and before she could say anything, she got a funny look on her face and started laughing. My godmother said, "What is it? Who is that?" Her mum said someone just playing some music over the phone, probably a wrong number. A few days later, my godmother was home alone when the phone rang. She picked it up and the song, "Hello, It's Me" by Todd Rundgren started to play. You should look up the lyrics. My godmother smiled and thought it was this guy she was dating at the time. She hung up and the next day at school brought it up to the guy she was seeing. He looked confused and said he never called her. She brushed it off as someone who had a crush on her. The phone calls were coming in about 5 times a day now, and she was both annoyed and freaked out. Her parents, however, just thought that it was someone who liked her. And each time she picked up the phone, that song was playing. Finally, one day when she answered the phone, she said, "Look, who are you? You've been driving me and my family insane for the past month, so knock it off." But that only seemed to make it worse, because now she was getting calls around 1 in the morning. Fast forward to about 2 months. This had been going on for a while, and one day, my godmother decided to go to the record shop with some friends. While she was there, she noticed this middle-aged guy looking at her. She didn't think anything of it until he walked up close to her and started looking at some records. And then, he takes a Todd Rundgren record, shows it to her, and started whistling, "Hello, It's Me," the song that played whenever she answered the phone. and with that, she told her friends that she didn't feel well and left. And just like that, the call stopped. I don't know what this guy's intentions were, but they definitely were not good. Hey guys, if you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up and share it with your friends. You can also leave a comment below. All feedback, good or otherwise, is always appreciated. If you have any creepy stories of your own, or have any topics that you would like me to cover, feel free to send them in via any of my social media. You can find all links to my social media in the description below. Until next time guys, make sure you lock your doors, stay safe, and I'll see you next video.